Call the meeting to order. Okay, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to start with item 2, which is a public reading, which is going to be handled by Ms. Howe.
Okay, Mayor and Council, members of the public, anybody paying attention on our YouTube feed? Our guest here today. Since this is our first reading for what I have referred to as our borrowing ordinance, I wanted to provide some feedback regarding how we've gotten to this point and additional information pertinent to why we feel borrowing for infrastructure makes sense at this time. You all have a copy of the actual ordinance in your packets. We have copies here today. The ordinance is available as a link online to the agenda, or you can come pick up, anybody can come pick up a copy of it at our facility at 201 Central. I'm going to go first to the ordinance and just page 2 before I start with the rest of the slides. I want to just read through briefly, summarize the whereas sections because I think they're very pertinent. Whereas the town of Ocean View, Delaware, is granted the power by this charter as adopted by the Delaware General Assembly as amended to incur indebtedness and to issue bonds within certain limitations and for certain specific projects. And whereas the town has determined to undertake certain projects, and then it lists all the projects that we have identified for borrowing to complete. I won't read through them now. But then whereas the town is granted the power by charter to borrow money and to secure the payment of the same by pledging the full faith and credit of the town for the purposes of financing the projects. And whereas the town may borrow money through the incurrence of debt and issue bonds within certain limitations for the project. And whereas the town intends to issue the 2026 bonds as general obligations in the aggregate principal amount not to exceed $7.2 million, proceeds of which will be used to finance the projects. And whereas the town will receive a proposal for the purchase of 2026 bonds at the private negotiated sale and will appoint the underwriter and award the sale of the 2026 bonds in accordance with the terms of this ordinance. Read through all of those, just wanted to make it clear what we're here for today. This is the first reading and public hearing in regards to the possibility of whether or not Ocean View will move forward with a bond sale. Get myself organized here. Okay, during our FY27 budget, you may recall, for this fiscal year that we began on May 1st, we discussed the projects that we've completed and those on the books awaiting funding. Ultimately, an exploration of borrowing took place, and we demonstrated a path forward to address the projects on the books sooner than later. Mayor and Council supported our moving forward with this effort, subject to final review and details and a vote. The ordinance to facilitate borrowing via general obligation bonds was introduced in April of this year, about 3 months ago. Tonight is the first reading and public hearing, as I noted. The second reading and public hearing will take place on July 14th. July 14th would therefore be your first opportunity to provide a vote on the ordinance. If that vote is positive, we would then move forward with the borrowing process. In regard to background, this topic has been discussed since February of 2025 when our financial advisor, PFM, completed our financial condition assessment that included various recommendations. Debt financing to complete infrastructure projects through the issuance of municipal bonds was one of the recommendations. The key aspects of the proposals are that we only borrow for large capital improvement projects that have long useful life, that we plan to consider a refinance in the out years if advantageous to do so, therefore reducing debt service costs, that we borrow in this manner, if we borrow in this manner, we can free up current financial resources and certainly can prevent the need for general fund tax rate increases to accomplish the projects. Our AA plus bond rating supports getting an attractive interest rate. And lastly, the good news, further supporting making this move now, is that we have forecasted that our street repair replacement and our capital replacement trust funds can support the annual debt service. Why now? Well, the projects that have been identified are not expected to reduce in price in the years ahead, and some may worsen. Plus, our property owners in the areas that need improvements will continue to deal with the hardship, in some cases flooding events. We don't have the funds to move forward without depleting our other reserves not typically used to fund infrastructure projects, or by raising taxes or reducing our needs in other areas of operations. All are undesirable options. Our bond rating, again, allows for attractive interest rates. Plus, we have identified sources to fund the debt service, and these trusts, as noted before, are the funds we typically use to pay for infrastructure projects. Lastly, the current staff are ready, willing, and able to manage the projects, their budgets, and managing the payment of our debt from the trusts that have been identified. Here's a list of the projects that we hope to fund. They were also included in our FY27 budget. I do have descriptions on the following pages. The borrowing need is therefore $6.7 million, in that range, and we've determined not to borrow, as the ordinance that I read the whereas sections for, not to borrow more than $7.2 million. Of course, we have the project costs and then the cost to borrow, such as payment of the underwriter, bond counsel, things like that, that also come out of the proceeds. I'm not going to go through these in depth. These are all available on our website. They're in the FY27 budget as well. But I just want to highlight a few things. The Woodland Park Drainage Improvement Project. This project will eliminate flooding in the area. It's been part of a phased effort that's been underway. Borrowing now will allow us to complete it. The Burson's Nature Park amenities. Well, we're coming to into the home stretch. The bid came in today for our park, for the construction of our park, and it was very favorable. Came under the engineer's estimate. We'll share more of that with you either later today in the meeting or at the next meeting. But we've been awarded, as you know, extensive grants to support its design and construction. But we now need some amenities, funds for amenities to make it special and to complete the project. This $235,000 is a match to funds that you also already approved in the FY27 budget. Betts Avenue drainage, along with the final West Avenue sidewalk connectivity efforts that have been a welcome addition and leading to our park and other areas here in town. It's time to finish the effort and to fix long-term flooding issues along Betts Avenue. You'll note that I did plop a picture in front of all of your spots of the consistent drainage issues that we've had on Betts. Well, when we're doing the sidewalk work, we're also going to correct that as a part of this project. This section of sidewalk connectivity puts more options out there for walking safely, getting to our park, the Asselwoman Trail, and ultimately will link with our Central Avenue effort. The Hunter's Run drainage improvements project includes a replacement of failing corrugated metal pipes and slot drains, and it's also aligned with street improvements. The Woodland Avenue widening project, as you know, Woodland Avenue runs parallel to Atlantic. It's become a throughway, one that's become much more necessary as our community has grown. This project's intent is to improve it for motorists, bikers, and walkers. John West Park, our playground, is of course aging, although we've been maintaining it well. It's not accessible, which of course is something that is highly desired and expected now at this time. These funds will assist in taking steps to bring an updated, unique, and engaging playground that welcomes all ages and abilities, as well as requiring less maintenance. So one thing that we have heard from some people is, well, does that mean you're not going to do anything else? Well, absolutely not. The more good news is that for our shorter lifespan projects, if we move forward with our borrowing plan, we're still going to be in a position to complete them. Their funding has already been identified. Think street repairs, vehicle replacements, facility maintenance, those type of things. As you are probably aware, we have, every 5 years we do our reserve study, and so these funds have been stacked away in our sinking funds. We put money towards them every year. So borrowing won't see us neglect our regular maintenance items. We will not fall behind. I want to be sure it's understood how we plan to fund the debt service. If we move forward, once debt is issued via general obligation bond sale, the debt service we're required to pay it off will be funded from 2 of our existing trusts. It will not be from property tax revenue. Keep in mind, our trust funds have been in place for many years, so our forecasting had the benefit of over 20 years experience regarding the funds we expect to bring in. And these trust funds are funded by the sale of real property, transfer tax revenues. A decision was made some time ago not to use transfer tax revenues to support the general fund. It was smart, and our community is in good position as a result. We have funds to get things done and handle emergencies. As a result, our forecasting supports the availability of funds to pay debt service associated with this borrowing plan. Here's a slide, I know it's very busy, with the figures associated from the trust funds. Russ, does this actually have, hello, does this have a pointer? The red dot, thank you, sorry. I'm going to try to walk everybody through this, but I will say that we attempted to label everything a little bit more even than we did in the budget, so you can follow along, but maybe even putting this slide and the next slide together, that side by side may be helpful. So I can do this. So column B right here, and column D right here, okay, do not include the costs associated with the projects we're looking at to fund through borrowing. B includes the cost of projects funded in association with our reserve study. Okay? That's what these funds are. That's the money we put away, we've been putting away, because we know things are going to have to be replaced or repaired, maintained. D includes the street repair and replacement trust projects as identified in our capital program, but not those for funding via the borrowing, okay? That's the stuff we're still going to get done, even if we do all these other projects. E, right here, identifies the anticipated debt service we will be required to pay if we borrow, and we only included 8 years, okay? If we borrow at the 7.2, knowing everything we know before we actually go out to get the bonds and sell them, that's the debt service, okay? And PFM can speak to that, and they helped us with this. And lastly, F, this one here, identifies the remaining funds after completing the CRTF projects, column B, and the street repair projects, D. So this, after we still do B, the short term, the smaller life projects, and D, okay? And we pay our debt service, at the end of 8 years, we're still gonna have an estimated $2.9 million in these trust funds, okay? This is the forecasting that we did that gave Dawn and myself, with the assistance of our financial advisors, the confidence that we're going to be able to fund our debt service with our trust funds. Okay? It's important. It's hard to work this thing, but we wanted to make sure you understood. Of course, A is where we are today. These are the A and C, the top, that's the funding right now, and then they're the anticipated money with 20 years of information, of stats of what we have taken in, okay, for those trust funds. So that amount is after 8 years. It's been forecasted to be 2.9 million that will still remain, and our regular reserve study projects will get done. And I'm happy to answer any questions on it, but let's go to the next one, and then we'll have time for that. So I want to skip over, actually I did that already. So now we have the opportunity for questions from me before I have Jamie Schlesinger come up and answer any questions, and also provide you some information on from their presentation and from their perspective. Can I answer any questions at this time?
Council, you have any? What was the total for the borrowing again? I lost it.
7.2.
Yeah, I thought it was 7. Okay.
7.2. And that includes, the cost to do it as well. The 6.9 was the 6.7, I think, was the total I forgot.
And I can explain why it's 7.2 versus 6.9.
Okay.
That's the question I was asking you.
Yeah. Anybody else? Now I'm also going to go, I might as well do this now and then we'll turn it over to you. So you also have a memo in your packet, okay, dated June 2nd. It's a process update regarding the GO bond sale. So I'm just going to cover that now because I think it's probably pertinent. Okay, so I wanted to share that we've been moving forward and making determinations as necessary to facilitate the borrowing, if ultimately supported by council. Prime considerations include the selection of an underwriter. The underwriter fills the gap between PFM, our financial advisors, and the investors. There are 2 ways to go about this selection. One is a competitive online auction where underwriters submit bids and submit bids to the online auction. The other is to enter into a negotiated bidding effort with a single underwriter. At the time of writing, currently, the interest rate market has experienced some volatility, suggesting having more flexibility might not be prudent, which a negotiated bidding process can provide. Competitive bidding provides less flexibility, that we would get bids that are submitted and the lowest bidder would be awarded the bonds, with no firm understanding of whether market considerations have been taken or what they were. For example, one example might be the opportunity to delay a sale if we think that if we wait a little bit, it might be more advantageous. The underwriter gets paid in commission based on the size of the bond deal. I just wanted to make you aware that at this point in time, it's my intent to utilize the negotiation route with Stifel Public Finance. Our charter does not require a specific process, and with flexibility in mind, the negotiation route appears to be in the town's best interest. Next is the selection of a paying agent. The paying agent, a bank, is the entity that handles the payout to those who've invested in our bonds versus the town having to do so. For instance, if 1,000 investors participated in our sale, the paying agent handles the check processing. The town then simply makes semi-annual debt service payments to the paying agent. And this is something that we did before with the water utility. So as such, it's our intent to utilize Wilmington Trust, a Delaware bank that is qualified to serve as our paying agent. Please note that these two items will of course not take place until such time that you actually vote on the ordinance. I also want to remind everybody that there is no requirement for a referendum based on the level of this borrowing for the town to undertake. So in closing, absent direction to the contrary, pending the supportive vote of mayor and council on July 14th, I would move forward with the process to select the underwriter via successful negotiation effort, and then enter into an agreement with Wilmington Trust to serve as the paying agent. Is there any questions in regards to any of that we could answer now or be prepared to for second reading? Okay. Any other questions about anything? Okay, then I'm going to turn it over to Jamie.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having. Carol covered 95% of everything that is going to happen as part of this process, except for the nitty-gritty of when we actually go to market. So, as a reminder, you've seen PFM and our firm either virtually or physically over the last few years assisting the town with various financial matters. Our bread and butter happens to be helping issuers find funding through debt issuance. That's what we spend most of our time on. Our firm works with more issuers than anyone in the country, and we do more transactions than any finance firm that you can think of. So if you think of any of the largest banks in the country, we actually do more business than them. And we're a 350-person shop, headquartered in Philadelphia. It's an amazing event. So we happen to work with many of the local governments in Delaware as well as the state. And our role would be to serve as your fiduciary. So although Carol talked about the process of finding investors, we need to have a firm to do that, and Stifel would handle that. However, our role is to sit on your side of the table when we're going through the process to negotiate the terms and conditions of the transaction, which mostly includes the interest rates, getting the best funding rate possible, the costs associated with it, and finding the proper investors on the right time. So that's our role in the part of the transaction. So you should feel comfortable sitting as a town council that you have a group of individuals that are in the market more than anyone in the country, and when the time comes, we're going to get you the best deal possible. So I wanted to make that noted for your purposes. We work with Stifel at various other places in Delaware, also nationally as well, so we are very comfortable with them as a firm. And as Carol noted, the paying agent service of Wilmington Trust is also very useful, and being local can't hurt as well. So just want to touch on those, since I would ask that question of why'd you decide and what does it make sense, and that's the way it should work. That being said, we're not ready to sell bonds tomorrow. There is some time that needs to happen to get us prepared for the issuance. You did have debt outstanding previously. I was here in 2017 when we refinanced the USDA issues on the water side, and we've been around since. Obviously, you have no debt currently outstanding when we paid off it. So from our perspective, we're kind of starting over again when it comes to the process. However, you have issued debt in the past, And we used municipal bonds in the past as well. So you've entered the market and had a strong rating in the past. Just to give you a highlight, the best rating you can be is AAA. The U.S. government is not AAA, if you didn't know that. We would potentially be higher than the U.S. government when we get our credit rating, which is an interesting dynamic. So when we go to market, we'll get a credit rating through Standard & Poor's again. If it falls within the range that we consider, we think you have properly planned for and have the proper demographics to get us to market and have that rating and that high capacity, that would give us a very, very favorable ability to go get investors to bid on your bonds and get the lowest interest rate possible. So that's important here. This is just I'm going to just touch on interest rates. Today's interest rates will mean almost nothing today compared to what they'll be in the next few months. It's important to point out that although we have seen some movement in volatility because of just things we can't control, generally speaking, the municipal bond market is the most efficient method of issuing debt for local governments out there. There are usually way more investors interested in buying bonds for you more than any type of investment out there. So traditionally, if for every dollar we ask for, we can get probably 5 times as many people interested in that credit to purchase. That demand is what drives our interest rates down, and we anticipate at the time we'll have a similar demand in the next few months, and that will be a very important aspect. So we're going to work with Stifel, should we move forward, to find a proper time to sell the bonds after we get most of the financial information done and get ourselves prepared to enter the market. Overall, we have seen some movement in the market in general, but generally speaking, if you think about the interest rate environment, think about the 10-year U.S. Treasury. If that's kind of an industry most people that are sitting on your side of the world can understand and see most of the time, because that's very, very prevalent. That's moved up and down the last couple of months from a volatility standpoint. The bond market kind of flows in a very similar fashion as the 10-year U.S. Treasury, so that'll give you an idea of where we are. But generally speaking, that volatility actually provides value, because when there's volatility, investors want municipal bonds because you guys are secure. You have a plan. You're backed by the general obligations of the taxing power of the town, as well as, we saw, would be funded by your operational trust funds that you've built up over the years, and you certainly can demonstrate that going forward. So we feel very comfortable with that. As far as how the process generally works, you've already solved 2 of the major problems that you would have to follow. And Tim Anderson, who's sitting here with me as well, would serve as your bond counsel. His job is to provide the tax-exempt opinion, i.e. whoever buys your bonds gets a value, a tax-exempt value to it. So step 1 is, do you have a reasonable expectation to spend the money within 3 years? The answer is yes. You've got a capital plan, you've listed what you need, that $6.7, $6.8 million fits within that plan, so you're going to spend the money within 3 years. Step number 1 is valuable, and we've done that. The second is we're going to follow a special exemption within tax code called bank qualification. It's a special exemption that allows investors of your bonds, as long as the issuer borrows less than $10 million in the calendar year, the investor can take a special exemption of the interest that they receive as a lower income level to them, and that credit to them gets pushed down to you. So you get lower interest rates just by issuing less than $10 million in a year. Here we're talking about $7 million, so we fit within that. So you get 2 benefits in that case, the tax exemption and the special exemption within bank qualification. When we go out and actually sell the bonds, our recommendation here is to issue the debt over a 20-year period. Although Carol brought out that the useful lives of the things that you're going to fund are longer than 20 years, we feel that the market itself and your ability to pay it back, we think a 20-year useful life fits very well with you. It saves you a little bit on interest expense over that period of time, and it also gives us the flexibility to refinance it in the future. So a 20-year amortization is very normal in this type of environment, and secondarily, it fits within the useful lives of the things you're funding. So conceivably, as Carol brought up earlier, you have a set of projects that are going to be short-term projects, and you have a set of projects that are long-term projects. We're going to do long-term debt for long-term projects to meet the asset value associated with it. These are, assumed interest rates. Once we get closer to the market, we'll be revising this and giving you better ideas. But to give you an idea, we anticipate that the payments Once we start phasing in the principal and interest, will be about $550,000 to $560,000 a year. It could be a little lower, it could be a little higher. It all depends on what the market will be at that time. We're going to give the town a couple of years to kind of phase things in, so it kind of fits within your budget to allow you to kind of start to get those payments paid back, and over that 2 or 3 year period, you'll get to the full run rate. And that's very normal to give that ability to phase it in for a little bit. From a time period, a lot of calendars on this, but we're about halfway through the process ultimately. Although we're here to do the first reading today, we've been doing work on the backside. Carol and Dawn have provided us some information already on financial history. We're preparing some of the documentation to allow us to get to the credit rating process, as well as to eventually start to talk to investors should we move forward. We provided Tim with a fair amount of information to help us put together the draft ordinances, and ultimately we're going to be going through a process to talk to the rating agency sometime in the fall. Why we're choosing the fall is driven by 2 things. It's mostly from the operational side. We want to make sure we get everything together from a legal side, but more importantly, we want to make sure that your financial statements and budgeting are in a good place. At that point in time, we feel very comfortable that we'll have proper information to be able to communicate with the rating agency at that time. And frankly, it fits very well within where your fiscal years are, that we can push off payments and have it all work out very well for you. So our intent here is to have things considered at the July meeting, and after that, there's no legal action necessary by the town, and the rest will really be done by the finance team to get things together. And then we'll report back probably sometime in October and early November and let you know how it goes. All that being said, if things go as well as possible, we'll have funds available before Thanksgiving, and that'll get you going. If you have to pay for things, you can reimburse yourselves, but generally speaking, we'll have that $6.7-ish million available to you. Okay. I'm going to answer the question I brought up over earlier. So when we are building the ordinances, we have to make certain assumptions to give flexibility for when the market drives what the total principal will be. So when we're building our models, we're backing into a deposit amount of $6.7, $6.8 million of projects.
Okay.
As part of that, there are things that we have to cover as part of the transaction. The easy ones are costs, right? There'll be a series of cost of issuance that we've estimated as part of this. It's not the total difference between those 2 numbers. And the bigger number is, it's very possible when we sell the bonds, they could be sold at a discount. And that just means that the coupons that the investors will receive in interest rates may be lower than the yields that they would get. And if there's a discount, we'd have to pay for that as part of that. And that discount can add up. So we made an assumption that they could be discount bonds.
The entire discount?
It's the full discount on all the issue at the time. There's a more than likely chance we're going to have premium bonds. Okay, so although I've described the numbers as being the discount bonds, right, in this market, more than likely we'll probably have premium. So I suspect our borrowing amount will be less than $6.8 million, but we're budgeting for it like it's the other way around. Okay, we have to show both sides of the coin here. A little bit of bond math at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday, but needless to say, that's the concept behind it. I think that's all my questions. Yes, sir.
You talked about refinancing. So once we do the first transaction, things change over time. Is there a limitation on when we can refinance?
Yes, to a certain extent. So when you issue bank qualified bonds in Delaware, the traditional call provisions are about 7 years from issuance. So under tax code, we're allowed to do something called a current period refunding 90 days, at least 90 days in advance of the call date. So if we're assuming that the bonds sell in September-ish or October-ish of 2026, assuming our payments are October-ish of 2026 starting going forward, we'd have a call provision sometime in 2033. So on or around that time, our role will be working and talking to you to make sure to see what the market looks like. And at that time, we have the option, the town as well as us as your fiduciary, have the option to refinance anytime from that point and going forward. So even in 2033, if interest rates are higher, we don't have to refinance,
That's my
but
other,
we have the option to do any time in the future.
that was my other part of the question, so that's great.
Yep.
That's a great thing to have.
Yep, because as far as the investors are concerned, they know when they're buying your bonds, they know up front that that option's built in, and it's built into the rates that they're receiving.
Correct. Thank you.
And I'll just add, Ocean View did that with its water debt, which saved substantial money.
Yes.
Prior to me being here, but so this is not something we do and we just stop looking at it. This is something we're
No, and it's a great
talking
option.
about.
It might be, we're in a good place and we don't do anything.
Yep.
That can also be the case, but it's always good to have an option, I think.
And I'll add one more item, because this is usually, especially for municipalities of your fashion, that, could have additional reserves that you build up. You also have the flexibility, if you choose, to pay down principal over the course of time as well. So questions we get a lot is, let's say I got a grant for XYZ street, but we didn't know about it today. And in a year from now, you get $750,000. You can choose to use those funds, if you wanted, to pay down principal on the bonds outstanding. Now, although you have the call provision in 2033, let's say a year from now that grant comes in, we can take the $750,000, put it into what is called an escrow, and you can invest that money until 2033 at essentially U.S. Treasury rates. And the second that money goes into that escrow, it reduces the principal and the interest rates, and you can invest the money essentially at that amount going forward. So you have flexibilities even if you can't refinance until 2033.
Okay, good.
Okay.
On you.
Is this a process that's similar to what school districts in Delaware do with the bonds and the debt service?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So unlike local governments here that have a charter that allows us to issue the debt under the name of the town, school districts' debt are actually issued through the state. And the state does it, and then the schools pay for it, but there's referendums and things like that. So it's very similar to that, but in this case, we're issuing the debt under our own name instead of the state funding on behalf. Yeah, but it is bonds that are being issued to cover the schools.
Process, just.
And the same type of investors, exactly. Yep. But generally speaking, the market in Delaware is very strong because not surprising, supply and demand. There's not a lot of municipal credit issued in Delaware, so we get a lot of investors interested, which usually does very well in the market. So good news for you is we hope that we'll find those investors, especially bank qualified, by the way. So I know that's a lot of background, but frankly, this is the right time to talk to you about it because it gives you a little nuance. But understand, all of this process will happen. We work very closely with your administration. They do a fantastic job, and you guys are in a very good position, and the plan here is very strong.
Nothing else? Okay, thank you very much.
Mayor and Council, is there any information, if I may be so bold, to ask, is there anything that you know now or feeling now that information we haven't provided that we need to work on before July 14th?
No?
If you think of anything, you know where we're at, we'd like to be ahead of the game and get whatever you need to feel comfortable, so that we can hopefully have a vote on July 14th.
I'm a little confused about one point.
Mm-hmm.
You spoke about bidding and not doing it, right?
Okay,
You want me to-
There was two different
not for
topics.
the projects, the
Right.
projects will be
No,
bid.
no, I
Yeah.
understand that.
Yeah,
I'm going to describe
yeah,
this.
go ahead.
Okay, so as Carol summarized, there's essentially two methods of how you can issue public debt
Right.
when it comes to this. When we're serving as a municipal advisor, we are sitting on your side of the table to do the process of using our information and our negotiation skills to help reduce the interest rates as low as possible. As long as you believe all that, you should, because we do it all the time. When we have a market that is somewhat volatile, and we've been more volatile than in the past, we believe that this process is better suited for the market we're in right now. Traditionally, I believe that strong credits that are easy to understand, the competitive process works very, very well. But I think in the current market, I find that the negotiated process with us being involved is better suited today.
Okay.
So I would feel comfortable, I should feel comfortable, it's my job, that we're gonna do right for the town, even if we are only talking to the one underwriter who's then finding multiple investors, because we're using all
So
the
at that
information to
point,
get there.
are they sending it out and people?
Yes, they are
You
going,
mentioned that, that's.
yeah, so ultimately, it's getting very nitty, but
Okay.
when we determine the day of pricing, so pick a date, October 1st, we find that's the right day to price bonds. On or around that date, our pricing group, we've got a group in Charlotte that does all of our negotiations, we'll work with them and Stiefel to put together the package, get everything together, and start to go back and forth with what the yields should be and the coupons are. And we'll be using that information to pre-market the bonds with our lens. As long we'll agree on that, and then on the day of pricing, we will go out and find those investors. At that time, they're going to be scattering all of the large investment banks, insurance companies, hedge funds, you name it, Vanguard, whoever those type of people are, and they will be coming back and saying, I want these bonds, I want those bonds, and they are finding all those investors at that time.
Okay.
So usually, as I said, the way it's been recently, we're finding at least 5 times as many people in the market that are interested for every dollar that we put out there, because it's a very nice investment.
In some background, that might be helpful. The other method, which is more like an auction, a date is set. So it's unlike if you do a construction project and get a bill, you can get it bids throughout time. A date's set, everybody comes in, people bid, but that may be a day on one of those peaks on the chart, and then you're sort of locked into whatever happens on that day. Unlike the other method, which is more of a give and take, it's negotiated is sort of a description for that reason.
And this is Tim Anderson, our bond counsel. Sorry.
He does a few of these too. But it's a great question, and it's a uniqueness here, but different times in the market, we make different recommendations, and that's our suggestion right now, is this is a better method for the town.
Council, anything else?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, Thank you,
Thank you very
thank you, gentlemen.
I'm actually going to Millville tonight, so this works very well. I have a meeting tonight, so thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, moving on. I need a motion for the adoption of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, approval of minutes of regular minutes from May 12th, 2026. I need a motion to approve.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, we approve the minutes of May 12th, 2026.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. Communications and presentations, financial, Ms. Parks, you're up.
Before you have the monthly financial update as of part of it April 30th and part of it May 31st of 2026. As of the end of the fiscal year 26, we collected 99.65% of our taxes. We have currently 9 property owners with prior year taxes due. We have 1 lien and payment arranges with the others, and then we're working to try to find the other 7. I have a feeling that they've probably moved, not forwarded addresses, and so mail just keeps getting returned to us. So we're working trying to find those folks. The FY27 tax bills were processed, and they were actually postmarked last Friday, so you should be getting those in the mail this week. We're getting ready and geared up for all the phone calls. The citizens have until July 31st to take advantage of the 1% discount by early payment, until August 31st to pay the current year taxes without penalty. Moving on to our reserve and committed funds, our emergency reserve trust has $1,279,033. The capital replacement trust has $1,810,477. Our street repair and replacement trust, $1,927,297. And our newly funded tax rate stabilization trust is starting out with $1,523,837. This is higher than the 1.4 million we thought. Will be coming back to council probably in the next few months with recommendations of the difference there. The emergency services enhancement funding has $1,310,812. Moving on to our transfer taxes, I do want to make one note about the ESIF funds. The schedule that is on the report only has the amount of funds that have been collected through the permit process. Interest earned, which is included in the total, is also restricted for use for the emergency services enhancement program. So that is restricted and will only go towards the grants that are funded. Our transfer taxes collected through the end of the fiscal year were 47.4% of new construction home sales, 8.1% of land sales, and 44.5% of resales. In FY26, we were a little over 900,000 ahead of our target. Even though the market is slowing down, the prices are not. So our transfer tax is still coming in very, very strong. For FY27, to meet our goal of the $1,250,000 budgeted, we would need to collect a little over 104,000 monthly, which we have no doubt feel that we will be again this year. Attached are your revenue and expenditure financial reports. As of the end of April, we are still acknowledging prior year payables and prior year revenues. We're in the last couple weeks of doing that, and our audit has been scheduled for the week of July 20th. So we are fast forwarding into audit season, already working with our auditors with sending over the information so that when they get there, it'll be ready and a smooth audit as we have had in the past. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Any questions, Councilor Moore?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is public safety.
Mayor and council, you should have the chief's council report in front of you. Don't really have much to add to this. It's pretty self-explanatory. I would like to bring notice to our lobby is now going to be open on Saturdays and Sundays now with our seasonal receptionist, Mr. Tom Rose. So we will have somebody in the PD from 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. every day in the lobby. If you have any questions on anything on the report, I'd be more than willing to try to answer them for you.
Just one comment. Lord Baltimore, I went to a presentation where Sergeant Bradshaw organized.
Was it a flag
To
presentation?
teach your children CPR and
Yeah,
the AED is something remarkable.
yeah.
That was a really, really great presentation, and hopefully, the students got something out of it, and hopefully it continues on as they go through school, because it's very important, not just for
Got to
them,
give a lot of credit to our SRO,
Yeah.
Sergeant Bradshaw. He spearheaded that and did an excellent job. And we targeted, I believe, the 5th grade, and I think that's going to be an ongoing thing.
Very good.
I've never seen another elementary school do that.
Yeah, it was unbelievable, and they were attentive, they weren't like talking or running around, it was,
The kids loved it.
Yeah, the kids seemed to enjoy it.
They really loved
Okay, any other questions relative to the police department's report? Okay, moving along, planning, zoning, and development, Mr. Simoneau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will hit the highlights here. It was kind of a busy month. Ongoing right now, concrete, sidewalk, and gutter repairs in Avon Park. Work should be completed later this month. Right now, the contractor had to pull off and move to another obligation. I anticipate that they'll be back within the next 10 days. Seasonal tree trimming is scheduled for Savannah's Landing, Woodland Park, and the intersection of Woodland Avenue and and Central Avenue. This proactive tree trimming reduces our risk of losing trees during severe weather events. Land development, nothing's changed at Silverwoods or Shore Vista, ongoing building homes in those two communities. Planning and zoning, scheduled for June 18th, 2026 at 4 p.m. Application P336. This is the long-awaited final subdivision plan approval for Blue Heron Landing, located at 32 and 34 Woodland Avenue. We anticipate that this project will get approved and move to the site development and home construction phase within the next, by the end of the year. Application P363 is a concept level review of a plan titled 5 Atlantic Avenue. It's, this is a plan to renovate and increase the square footage of the building by approximately 2,376. It's located on Town Road. Application P364 is a concept site plan for Dunkin' Donuts, which is located 95, 97, and 101 Atlantic Avenue. Capital improvements, OVPZ&D 2606, Oakwood Parking Facility. It's pretty much completed. Final surface paving of the lot is scheduled for June 23rd. Hopefully that schedule holds, and it'll be ready by 4th of July. Bids for OVPZ&D 2607, Burson's Nature Park and Trail, were received by the town manager this morning. And at the moment, Moffitt and Miller Construction Incorporated, Middletown, Delaware, is the apparent low bidder. We'll do our bid review and due diligence, pass this on to DelDOT, as this is the TAP project and being paid for with TAP funds. Get their approval, and then we look to be getting into shovel in the ground in August. A meeting was held with representatives of DelDOT, Century Engineering, and the Town of Ocean View Planning staff to discuss the progress of OVPZ&D 2702. This project will construct sidewalks along Oakland Avenue, Central Avenue, and Oakwood. That'll bring a connection from Woodland Avenue over here to John West Park. This project is also a TAP project and will receive a construction grant in the amount of 80% of the total construction engineering dollar cost. We don't know the amount of the grant at this time, but I anticipate it's going to be significant, probably somewhere in the $650,000 range. Tax ditches. So, you know, over the past year, we've been working closely with the Deep Hole Tax Ditch to reestablish conveyance of water in the prong 4 to the tax ditch main, which runs through Avon Park. Earlier this week, all of the vegetation was cut from the prong and removed, and dip out started this morning and will probably conclude tomorrow or Thursday. And our hope is to get that water flowing again and eliminate the ponding. In addition to serving on the Deep Hole Tax Ditch, I volunteered and have been appointed to serve as the commissioner of the Banks Bennett Tax Ditch. Code enforcement was also a busy month. The biggest item here is 12 violations for failure to obtain business license and or business permits, property maintenance violations, early construction start violations, working on Sunday violations, which earned Beezer Homes a $500 fine, which they came in and paid yesterday. The rest of the stuff is total number of building and sign permits issued, COs issued, business and rental licenses. As always, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Council?
No.
No.
Thank you, Mr. Semino. Next up, our town manager's report.
Yes, thank you so much. skip over the first one. We talked about that for the public hearing. Charter change update. I noted in my report, and got more information this week, but I noted that the House voted in favor of our charter change, and that it was sent to the Government Affairs Committee of the Senate. That meeting will take place this week. I think they emailed me that it's Thursday, but so we should have a final on that. And again, this was just a kind of a cleanup of an oddity, so that the mayoral and our council member filings for office would be the same day, not to confuse things unnecessarily. Church road update. Just wanted to let you know we did get the title search information back. It confirmed our previous understanding that the town did not have ownership of the road, Church Road. Of course, this had come up after the very large speed bumps were put in, have since been reduced, but there was some confusion between DelDOT and then between DelDOT and our representatives of the Senate and the House as to whether or not we owned it, so we needed to really clarify this, so we did. I can say that that I also finished the grant submission for our final phase of our card access for our maintenance facility. It was accepted. Money's still a little bit on hold from the feds, but they expect to have them released any time now, and it's a $17,000 grant to allow us to finish and have all of our facilities on the same program and using the same operating system. Over the past year, myself and other staff members, Ken and Dawn and Russ, we drug him into it as well, have met with representatives from IQ Fiber to discuss their interest to enter Ocean View's right-of-ways to install fiber to facilitate offering fiber internet plans to properties in town. An agreement was reviewed by the town solicitor and redlined. I hope to be able to bring something to you to consider at the July 14th meeting. I did have some new information that I wanted to share. As you know, the South Coastal Village Volunteers is one of our tenants here, and of course they're a good partner to our community and surrounding communities, helping the residents. I wanted to share that from January of this year through May, they provided 650 hours of service and drove 7,600 miles providing services to members in our community.
That's great.
So they've really, from day one, it's been a very positive addition to our community, and they're quickly surpassing even things that were done up in Lewis early on. Of course, they've been in place for some time. But just want to say, wonderful to have them here in our building and in our town. I'm happy to answer any questions about anything else.
Council, anything? Nothing?
No.
Thank you, Ms. Howell.
Thank you.
Up next, Public Works, Mr. Martin.
Yes, so the guys have been conducting daily facility inspections, including trash removal and restroom supply checks here at 32 West. Of course, they do their playground inspections every Monday and Friday, set up for weekly meetings and rentals in the town hall. I met with irrigation contractor just to entertain the idea of possibly getting some irrigation on the other side of the park, near the exercise equipment and the lot over there. We'll be meeting a couple other guys. Grass cutting was delayed for a week because of the northeastern hit over Memorial Day weekend. We had a couple people saying our grass was tall and whatnot, but I was aware of it, but we couldn't cut because it was so wet. But instead of Collins cutting grass, they did come over and help us pull a bunch of weeds here, so it was a big help. Planted all the annuals around the park and around town. Over at 201, Advantech fire alarms performed their yearly test. North Star came out and did their spring maintenance contract. Dave Cattell organized Stanley Steamers to come out and take care of the carpets at 201. And we also had our sprinkler systems tested this past week. Around town, we've been trimming up roadways and picking up trash along the road. We also have been placing like microbial larvicide pellets in drainage ditches and some of the drains around town. We haven't had an opportunity to spray for mosquitoes yet, so we're hoping this kind of gets a jump on things when it finally does heat up and the weather allows us to spray. We'll already have a head start. So, I had a gentleman come out and we discussed storage options for some of the holiday wreaths and decor, maybe at our shop, so we don't have to store them over the winter. We can store them in-house instead. So. But if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Park looks good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Millville Volunteer Fire Company Report, I've got that one. If you look at it, it's been a dramatic increase in calls within their fire district. Calls went up from 301 to 354, so there's 53 more calls this May as opposed to last May. The transports are going up by 34, and also the number of hours, the personnel hours, that's going up almost 3,000. So I mean, they're really, really busy. So like I say, that's not just within our town, it's within the fire district. In fact, almost within our town, there's a drawing fire right next door to the town.
Sirens are going off a
3200
lot.
Lathbury Court in Lord Balmer Landing. So fortunately, there weren't any injuries in it. It was just a fire that destroyed most of the house. Any questions on that? Okay, next up is citizens' privilege. On items on the pre-published agenda listed for discussion and consideration are items subsequently added at any time to the pre-published agenda for discussion and consideration. If someone chooses to speak at the first citizen's privilege, he or she may not speak on the same topic at the second citizen's privilege. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak? Okay, with that, we'll close the citizen's privilege. Number 8, under new business, Joe.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to introduce ordinance to amend and reinstate the town of Ocean View annual operating and capital budgets for fiscal year ending April 30th, 2026.
Thank you. Second citizen's privilege. Is there anyone wishing to speak? This is on anything, not just the items published in the agenda. We'll close that. To my knowledge, there is no executive session today. So, request a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.
Thank you.